The good news is we're all in this together. And when we see we're together, we can work things out. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Energy Week with George Harvey and the famous Tom Fennell.
In the flesh.
In the flesh. I want to start out, Tom, by telling you a couple of things that happened.
Yeah.
Nancy Ray Mallory, who's the editor of Green Energy Times. I write about, 15, 20% of the articles that are in Green Energy Times. And this was something that really meant something to me. She said a woman had come up to her and said that she had been so depressed over a period of time that she was actually had come to the point that she had decided to jump off a bridge. And she picked up a copy of Green Energy Times and started reading articles in it.
Yeah.
And they gave her enough hope that she decided not to jump off the bridge.
Well, that's a good story.
It's a good sign.
A hell of a story.
There were two things that happened today that we're going to talk about next week. Actually, several things that happened today. But one of them is California in 2006 set a greenhouse gas emissions target for 2020 that it would reduce its greenhouse gas emissions at least to the level of 1990 by 2020. Now, it takes time to prepare the information about greenhouse gas emissions, but the most recent materials that have just been released are from 2016, and they show that California has already met that goal.
That doesn't surprise me, really.
I think
some of these people are taking this thing as if it's serious.
As if it's serious, yeah. Another one is Bhutan.
Okay.
Bhutan has
that's this little kingdom in the Himalayas.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Bhutan set a goal to. They're the one that's known for having a gross domestic happiness.
Yeah, right.
They
it's
set
up
a
by
goal.
Nepal.
That's right.
It's in the high Himalayas.
That's right. And they set a goal. They set a goal of being carbon negative in terms of net carbon negative for emissions, and they have decided to go past that and make sure that they're planting enough trees that they set a goal of net zero carbon emissions, and they have decided that they're changing that goal so that they are going to be drawing down carbon out of the atmosphere in amounts greater than what they're putting in.
By trees.
By planting trees. In addition to net zero carbon emissions from energy, they're planting trees.
Beautiful.
Okay.
They're doing their job.
Yeah. Every day I get news, search the internet for news on energy and climate change, and I find articles and post those articles at my blog, geoharvey.com, geoharvey.com, and I have a synopsis, 50 to 55 words for each article, and a link to the original, and I put 10 to 15 of these together every day. And once a week, Tom and I get together and go through the ones that are perhaps the most significant. So this week, our weekly energy party is happening on Thursday morning. Today being
like it happens every week.
Like it happens every week, almost every week. And today being the 12th of July. So we're going to start with the previous Thursday, which is the 5th of July.
That's right.
If you hear us talk about a story that you want to find out more about, you can go to the blog and click on the calendar for the date. We'll try to keep you aware of what date these articles appeared at the blog. And
I usually pipe in about this time, say that I've read all of these articles.
Yeah.
And if there's one or more that I think are particularly compelling, I'd like to try and mention it.
Yeah.
I don't always remember to.
Yeah.
As we've said in this past, we could sometimes do a whole show on just one
article. We should actually do that once in a while, just for the fun of it. Anyway, we're starting off this week with an article from Business Day.
Okay,
and
a picture coming up here.
We have a picture. This is These are wind turbines in Sweden.
Now, if you didn't know what wind turbines look like, you're going to know by the end of this show.
We have a lot of wind turbines in the show. Look at that picture and you'll see that the wind turbines are rather far away. Much, much closer are telephone line or power lines of some kind, and trees, which are shortish
Oh,
trees.
they're trees. I thought they were beasts in the field.
No.
Those are trees,
Those
aren't
are
they?
trees.
So
And
this is a pretty large scale picture there.
yes, and that gives you, I think, a fair idea of how big those wind turbines are.
They're pretty large.
They're pretty big.
They're pretty big.
And the bigger they are, by the way, the taller they are.
Yep.
And the taller they are, the higher their blades are off the ground,
Yep.
and the less likely they are to kill birds.
Well, there's truth in that.
And the quieter they are.
And the birds aren't that stupid. They know where they
Mo-
are.
By and large, they're not that stupid. Okay.
I think there's more problems with birds running into cooling towers than
By far.
running into
By
windows.
far. Yeah, the coal and gas and nuclear power. Nuclear power, the material I've seen says that nuclear power kills approximately 150% of the number of birds that are killed by wind turbines.
I can believe
and
that.
That is,
Because they don't make any noise.
yeah, that is not on a pure number basis. This is relative to the amount of energy they produce.
Okay.
So if you had nothing but nuclear plants and you switched to nothing but wind, you would reduce the bird kills by about a third.
Now that's an interesting thing. I mean, really, because I think people are more apt to believe that the turbines kill birds.
I think they are, yes. And as a matter of fact, you know, I have heard people say, I'm against industrial wind. Well, what is industrial wind? Why do you use the word industrial? The fact is there are small wind turbines, and some of them are pretty safe, and some of them are very, very quiet. But in the old days...
There's a local guy that was promoting a vertically spinning
Yes.
turbine. You can't hear him at all.
You can't hear them at all, and furthermore, the birds are completely uninterested in getting involved with them. And they work well in chaotic wind situations where there's a lot of change in the
Because they don't have to swing around.
They don't have to
meet the
swing
sun.
around.
Yeah, makes sense.
Anyway,
So let's move along here.
yeah,
We're talking about Sweden here.
yeah, let's do that.
Sweden to reach its 2030 renewable energy target this year.
Swedish utilities and power generators have already installed so many wind turbines that the nation is on course to meet its 2030 renewable energy target this year. By December, Sweden will have about 3,681 wind turbines installed. A lobby group, Swedish Wind Energy Association, estimated the turbines will supply enough power to meet the 2030 goal.
Well, that goal was to add 18 terawatt hours, which is a lot,
Yeah,
of new renewable energy output by the end of next decade,
yeah,
which they've met already.
yeah.
And most of the capacity in this particular Swedish thing will be on land.
Yes. And by the way, that, you know, meeting these goals has turned out to be extremely beneficial economically to the organizations that have done it. California, in meeting that
Well, for
goal,
one thing, they're saving money.
they're saving money. But California, in meeting that goal, grew its economy by 24%,
That's interesting.
you know. Okay, we have an item here from express.co.uk.
Okay, this one is, I'll put you up
You'll
there.
put me up. Nobody wants to look at me.
Well, I'll put us both up then.
Okay, do that.
That's a picture
There
in the
you go.
background there.
Now you can see Tom.
Climate change shock.
Yeah,
Rising sea levels. This is scary.
this is scary.
Rising sea levels to wipe out $14 trillion worth via flood damage. We're talking about real estate here.
Yeah, a study published by the UK National Oceanographic Centre warned that rising sea levels could cost the world economy £10 trillion, or $14 trillion, every year by 2100. It argued that failure to meet the UN's 2-degree C warming limits could have catastrophic effects. The findings were published in the science journal Environmental Research Letters.
This is a particularly interesting blog. This particular one. Look this one up.
Yeah.
It starts off with a really neat NASA animation showing the effects on the globe of climate change.
Yes.
Over a number of years.
Yes.
Okay, and it's, how would you say it, eye-opening?
Yeah.
Okay, the second thing included in this is a great slideshow.
Yes.
Showing the effects of global warming on the planet and where it is worse, where it is less worse. And, so this is a pretty, if you're going to look one of them up, this is a good one.
This is a good article. And you know, what it reminds me of is a story of a guy whose house caught fire.
Yeah.
And he was out, you know, in the town and
gallivanting.
Doing whatever, you know, in the neighborhood though, close to his house. He could see the house. And his neighbors came to him and said, "Your house is on fire." And he said, "No, it isn't."
Oh.
And they said, "All you have to do is look." And he said, "I don't have to look." And they said, "All you got to do is look." And he said, "Furthermore, I'm canceling my fire insurance."
Oh.
That is the way the United States government is working right now.
Oh, okay. I knew there was a moral to the story.
So.
Well, out of this particular article, there's a takeaway here. The scientists behind the study,
Yes.
because the article is about the study,
Yeah.
fear hundreds of millions of people, hundreds of millions, who reside in low coastal areas, and this is worldwide now,
right,
are most at risk. And I think we've talked about the dangers in Bangladesh.
Well, not just Bangladesh.
It may not, no, but that country may not be there in 30 years.
Yes, I know that. And actually, you know, I mean, the Cameron County, Cameron Parish rather, the southwestern parish in Louisiana has been told by its very conservative Republican government, the state government, that all the people are going to have to move within 25 years because the entire county is going to be underwater.
Well, I read about one guy who's moved like 3 times now, and each time he moves about 10 miles out of the way. So, well, I know he wants to stay close to his neighbors and his environment and all that.
You know who stands to lose the most?
Okay, who?
Donald Trump.
How do you mean?
All his property is, you just think of the amount of property he's got.
All on shoreline.
Not all of it, but a lot of his property is on shorelines. And as a matter of fact,
Mar-a-Lago.
Mar-a-Lago, for crying out loud, it's right across the street from a beach.
It means sea and lake.
Yes. And you know, one of the things that's interesting is Donald Trump owns a golf course in Ireland.
Oh, I know it well because my ancestors came from Kilkee, which is where his golf course is.
All right, and you know that they're putting up a seawall.
Yeah.
And they're putting up a seawall because the ocean's rising, Donald Trump, at your golf course. Right.
And he's fighting the seawall, and they told him to go to hell.
No. He's not fighting the seawall. The local people have been fighting Donald Trump's seawall.
Oh, Donald Trump is building the seawall.
Donald Trump wants to protect his golf course.
I got it right now.
And, you know, this is kind of an interesting, well, Donald Trump might be a very smart man, but he's got very, very nasty advisors, and they're not telling him the truth. He says things that are really kind of amazing. Okay, I think
he shoots from the hip most of the times. He doesn't think about the consequences.
No, I don't think he understands the word consequence. Okay, let's
move along here.
We've got an item coming up from Utah Public Radio.
This is a good article too.
Yeah.
Sierra Club study indicates a lower cost for renewable energy. Duh.
Put up the picture, Tom.
Huh?
Put up the picture.
We
have a picture. Yeah, this is actually a coal plant in Utah. The cost of burning coal is rising. The cost of renewable energy is going down, according to a recent study commissioned by the Sierra Club. An independent company, Energy Strategies, was contracted for the study. Its analysis showed that wind and solar power tend to be less expensive for consumers than coal. You know, Tom, this puts me in mind of another article that's coming up later in the show that has to do with a different study. This idea that the studies are done independently is really important.
So they're not influencing.
They're not influencing the study. They have to do this in a way that is where the study is completely independent. And in this other study, I think it's later in the show, the study wound up telling them something very different from what they expected.
No, we get to it, we can talk about it.
I'm thinking, as I say that, maybe it was last week. Go ahead.
Takeaway from this article, the Sierra Club report said there is potentially $700 million in savings if coal is replaced with solar energy, and even more if coal is replaced with wind power.
Now,
Well, you don't
figures,
have to pay for the fuel.
Yeah, and the equipment is much more
And
expensive.
the equipment is cheaper too. Yeah.
for coal.
Compared a solar field.
Yeah,
with a huge coal generating station.
right. My recollection is that those figures did not include external costs. Am I correct?
I don't remember. I really
think
don't
that
remember.
those figures said this is what the difference in cost, but it doesn't count the fact that coal is damaging people, coal is hurting people, and we will get to that.
I seriously doubt it did.
In our next,
It wasn't that kind of a study.
in our next item, which is we're up to Friday, July 6th, and this is an item from The Hill. And
Trump coal plant could lead to, here we go.
There it is.
One pollution-related death for every 2 jobs.
A newly published study projects that a Trump administration proposal for propping up struggling coal and nuclear plants could lead to premature deaths from pollution. Resources for the Future found that for every 2 to 4.5 coal mining jobs the plan protects, there would be 1 human death due to emissions of sulfur dioxide and nitrogen oxides. Now,
Well, the research here is in response to Trump's plan
Yeah.
for the DOE to take steps to prevent the closure of aging coal and
Yeah.
nuclear plants. Why?
okay, who benefits from this?
Bingo.
The coal miners? Well, the coal
don't think
miners
so. They're doing
arguably,
okay
yeah, they're doing okay, but you know, the solar and wind industry is producing jobs so fast that we could hire all of those coal miners.
Absolutely.
You know,
Absolutely.
I told you
The only problem is that the people might have to move. The coal is here.
Do you remember Jessica Kilroy?
No.
The blonde chick. Now, okay, before anybody gets mad at me, she referred to herself as a blonde chick. The girl who went up on the wind turbines to fix them.
Yeah.
And she lives in Montana. And she was in that film that the Weather Channel put together, she was repairing a wind turbine in Kingston, Massachusetts.
Hanging by a thread.
Hanging by a thread, 300 feet up in the air. These jobs, yes, some of them are local jobs that are just local. And by the way, there's going to be a lot of those in West Virginia and Kentucky and places like that, because those mountaintops they've removed have got no use. And they can put solar panels up on them. And
No, they're flat.
they're
look like
flat. There they
plateaus.
are, yeah. There could be a lot of jobs created for these same people.
Yeah.
But that's not what they're doing. What they're doing is they're trying to prevent the coal mining jobs from going away so the miners can die of black lung disease and the people who live in Rutland, Vermont can die because air pollution comes in from New York State.
Well, economics in the end will dictate.
Well,
It's gonna take a while, but-
we've got to get away from that too, and maybe we should be talking about gross domestic happiness in the United States.
That would be a nice thing. to
The
think
idea
about.
the very idea that economics have to dictate, which is built into the corporate plan of
it
most
is,
corporations in the United States, is one of the most destructive things. You know, here I am. I voted for Richard Nixon twice. I voted for Gerald Ford. I voted for Ronald Reagan twice. I voted for George Bush twice. I voted for Bob Dole. I voted for George W. Bush. And I'm telling you, we have a serious problem. And
Yeah,
the
we do.
serious problem is partly that companies are basically saying, we don't have any moral guidance. We don't have any environmental guidance. We don't have any human welfare guidance. The only thing we're interested in is the amount of money we can make for the investors. It's the only thing.
Interesting. I just learned a new word.
What's that?
Wetigo, W-E-T-I-G-O.
Wetigo?
Yeah, it's an Indian word.
Oh, okay.
Well, it's a word borrowed from one of the Indian languages.
Okay.
But it means someone with no compassion and nothing but greed.
I've known a few of them.
Let's move along here. We got an interesting
This is a beautiful picture. It reminds me of pictures that were painted by Renaissance masters.
Except it's a photograph.
It's a photograph.
But yeah, it does. It looks like one of the old masters there.
Yeah, this is from The Guardian.
And this is a Syrian guy.
He's a Syrian guy. It reminds me of a painting called The Gleaners. But nevertheless, go ahead.
Yes. Syrian Seeds could save U.S. wheat from climate menace.
A Kansas
This is an interesting article.
This is an interesting article. A Kansas greenhouse has in it a buzzing horde of flies laying waste to 20,000 wheat seedlings. But as researchers watched, there was one species of growth that remained untouched. That species, grown from Syrian seeds, could end up saving the U.S. wheat from climate change.
Well, it turns out that this ancient Syrian grass, natural growing grass, rescued from Aleppo, is resistant to pests. So they're trying to figure out why, how, and how they can incorporate it into wheat.
You know, there are certain things that we think of as natural. White wheat, the semolina and you know, things of that nature. I don't want to blame semolina, but I love, you know, noodles made from semolina. But nevertheless, white wheat is an old type of genetic breeding, you know.
You mean like 1,000 years ago?
Yeah, 1,500 years ago, something like that. And we have this idea that this is the way wheat is naturally. That's not natural wheat. Natural wheat is spelt that
genetically
sort of thing.
modified.
Well, in a sense it was, you know, it was
with the technology they had 1,500 years ago.
Yeah, it was just done by breeding. It was like taking wolves and turning them into Chihuahuas and St. Bernards. Yeah. But the thing is that wheat, that white wheat is lacking in nutrients in addition to having...
It tastes better.
It's white, you know. It's very important that the things that we taste be white. Maybe we should get along.
Well, a quick takeaway from here. This is what's happening here.
Yeah.
Climate conditions in some areas of the Midwest are starting to resemble conditions in the Middle East. Okay.
Oh, it's a little scary, but it happens to be true.
Diseases and pests such as the Hessian fly are moving north from the southern U.S. and Mexico and surging across the Midwest.
That's the immigration problem that Donald Trump has.
Those Hessians, you got to keep them out.
No, it's the Mexican insects that are invading the country.
Okay.
Oh,
well,
man.
in any case, the larvae of the Hessian fly used to be killed off by the cold of winter. But that cold is coming later in the season and the larvae are surviving to turn into flies.
Just like deer ticks.
Yeah, exactly.
Which are and the other invasive species that we've got in Vermont.
That is starting
I'll
to
tell
happen.
you, there are still people out there who are denying that climate change is happening. And you know, it's like, okay, you want to walk around with your eyes shut, you're going to start bopping into things sooner or later.
Interesting history on the Hessian fly.
Yeah.
They're flies. They look like bees, but they're flies.
Yeah.
And they suck the juice out of the stems of wheat plants, killing the wheat. And they call them Hessian flies because reportedly they were introduced to America by the Hessian soldiers that were mercenaries to the British in the Revolutionary War.
You know, before the Revolutionary War
Yeah.
was when the first case of Lyme disease was reported. I think I've told you this.
Is that so? That long ago?
That long ago. And that first report of Lyme disease ever written in scientific materials was reported not in the United States, but in Scotland.
No kidding.
On the island of Lewis. You know, these Outer Hebridean islands don't get very cold in the winter.
That's true. They're all, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they got
And
nice climates.
what else got imported from Lewis?
I don't know.
Donald Trump's mother.
Oh.
You know who to blame here. All right, folks, there's no connection. No connection. But, you know, it's one of my jokes. I like to tell jokes that are true. Anyway, that came from The Guardian, and now we have an article from CNN. We're still on July 6th.
CNN usually has good articles, by the way. A former coal lobbyist is the new leader of the EPA.
Isn't this grand? EPA Administrator Scott Pruitt resigned. Now a former coal lobbyist will be the EPA's new acting head. Andrew Wheeler was confirmed by the Senate in April to be the deputy administrator, though he was criticized by Democrats for his past ties to energy lobbyists. He was an energy lobbyist, I think.
He was himself.
One client of the law firm where he worked was coal mining company Murray Energy.
We've talked about them. They're a big outfit.
They're the only.
Probably talk about, was it Charles Murray?
Bob Murray.
Bob
Murray.
He's a big coal magnate. Really.
Yeah, well, and he's interesting in the respect that he's a self-made man. He was a coal miner who went down.
Yeah, he was actually a coal miner.
And he was involved in accidents in the mines where he got hurt or threatened to be hurt or whatever. I mean, this guy's got first-hand experience.
He's also a big supporter of Trump.
He's a big supporter of Trump.
Financially.
Yes, and he wants those coal mines to be saved, which is he's given money
to be safe is one thing.
Saved.
Oh, saved.
Yeah.
Well, if they're worth saving, they'll save them.
Well,
as I said before, it's economics is going to dictate it.
Well, yeah. Okay, we're up to Saturday, July 7th, and we've got a picture here of a forest in Germany.
I'll try and get that picture.
And an article from UN News. You got this straight from the UN.
And I got the picture up there, too.
You do.
Forests essential for the future. UN agriculture chief spells out in new report.
Time is running out for the world's forests, warns a report from the UN Agricultural Agency. It urges fostering an all-inclusive approach to benefit both trees and those who rely on them, halting deforestation, managing sustainably, restoring degraded forests, and adding tree cover all need action to avoid damaging consequences. And that picture that we had there,
get the picture back
get
up.
the picture back up, is a picture of clear cutting, obviously. And
yeah.
That's clear cutting in Germany. And the destruction.
I don't think anybody did that anymore.
Oh.
If you're going to make a farm field out of it, I can see clear cutting.
Well, that's not going to be a farm field.
No,
that's too steep to be a farm field.
You can see that the trees.
And as a matter of fact, if you look at those rows of waste that they've piled there, they don't go across the land, they go up and down, which means they're going to channel water from rain to
have gullies.
Dig gullies.
Probably gullies there already.
Yeah, this is not a smart way of doing things. And, you know, Germans are supposed to be smart people. Well, Americans are supposed to be smart. Yeah.
Well.
Okay, should we move on?
Let's move along here.
We've got an item here from the New York Times.
The EPA drafts a rule on coal plants to replace the Clean Power Plan. Uh-oh.
Uh-oh. The Trump administration drafted a new proposal to regulate carbon dioxide emissions from power plants, but it's far less stringent than the climate plan formalized in 2015 by the Obama administration. The new proposal accepts, for now, the idea that CO2 is a pollutant, but it is likely to spur only small tweaks in the nation's energy system.
Well, that's what they're doing. They're talking, this energy plan calls for modest upgrades, such as improving efficiency or substituting fuel, using brown coal instead of hard coal or something like that.
Yeah.
This contrasts to the more ambitious goals of the Clean Power Plan, which is in effect now.
Yeah.
Okay, which encourage utilities to make broader systemic changes to cut emissions, such as switching from coal to natural gas or renewable.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that I find interesting about the new person in the EPA, this new administrator
Yeah.
is that he is from coal. But coal has been almost completely put out of business by natural gas. So what is he going to do here? Is he going to promote coal and natural gas? Is he going to promote coal or natural gas, one for the exclusion of the other? Because if he is going to try to promote coal to the exclusion of natural gas, the natural gas industry, which is big, and oil, because they're combined, is huge compared to coal, and they're going to be wanting to put him down.
Well, as of now, this is only a draft.
Yeah.
So it's not the law yet.
Yes, I know.
So we'll see what happens.
And I don't think that anybody really knows exactly what's inside it either, because the administration is trying to keep everybody somewhat in the dark. Should we go on?
Yeah, we'll go on here.
Okay.
We got another acronym here.
This is from Daily Energy Insider.
EIA. E-I-E-I-O.
I think they should sing that instead of the stuff they produce.
Finds renewable energy gradually diminishing fossil fuel dominance. Well, that's a duh, too.
Yeah, right. The EIA is the Energy Information Administration,
Correct.
which is supposed to be providing Congress with its information.
Yeah.
The EIA is right on the money for a lot of the information that it produces, and it is comically off for a lot of the information that it produces. And typically,
Is it a couple of years late or something like that?
oh no, it'll say yeah, renewable energy installations have been operating on a curve that is exponential to date, but within 18 months it's going to level off and it'll be flat for the next 25 years. They do this every year, year after year, year after year. They say the same thing.
We've seen some of those graphs.
We've seen the graphs,
yeah,
yes.
And
if you were to take just the right-hand most part of the graph and draw two lines, it would look like a ladder, because they have these things leveling off for the next 25 years.
Ain't gonna happen.
It's crazy. Last year, the lowest share of total U.S. energy consumption by fossil fuels in more than 100 years, but they still have an 80% market share. The Energy Information Administration found petroleum, natural gas, and coal have been decreasing for the last 3 years. Coal especially has taken hits, but the others are both down. Now, this is something that we've talked about.
Yeah.
The oil industry is selling oil through. We're not talking about making electricity here. We're talking about all energy.
All use.
And this is what we have to stop.
Yep.
We have to stop emitting carbon from 80% of our energy sources. This is a big job.
Transportation is the
in
big
Vermont,
one.
it's half of the energy that we use is transportation.
Well, it's a big one all over the country.
Oil for heating, propane for heating and cooking, natural gas for heating and cooking.
None of these things are as portable as oil is for transportation.
Yeah, and natural.
We got electric cars coming.
Yeah, and natural gas. You say none of these things is as portable as oil, but natural gas, you're stuck with a pipeline. Mm-hmm. You can't use it if you're not close to a pipeline. We don't have natural gas here in Brattleboro.
No, we don't.
You can buy liquefied natural gas. It's going to cost you a fortune, but I'm
not sure there's any natural gas anywhere in Vermont.
In the Burlington area, south of Burlington, there's natural gas. And as a matter of fact, they were talking about putting in that natural gas pipeline from Rutland down to Middlebury and then across the Lake Champlain.
Yeah.
They are going to take it down to Middlebury, I believe.
Are they
really? The hope of Middlebury College is that they're going to be able to put farm resource natural gas into that pipeline, and then draw it out at the college so they don't have to transport it by truck anymore.
That seems to make sense. I don't know.
We could produce a lot of natural gas using the farms. We don't do it yet, but we could. Okay, we're up to Sunday, July 8th.
There's a couple of things.
Oh, there's more.
Well, there's some stuff from the article.
Oh, okay, good.
Coal consumption peaked in 2005.
Yes.
Before plummeting nearly 40%.
Yeah, it's still plummeting. Got news for you.
Petroleum likewise saw its peak levels reached in 2005.
Yeah.
That's interesting. But last year it did see a slight increase in consumption, primarily because of the transportation sector.
Now, natural gas last year declined.
Slight consumption dropped last year,
For
but it's increased 8 out of the past 10 years.
yeah, and this is something that well, we're going to have to deal with it.
Well,
it's going to have to stop.
Natural gas is gaining at the expense of coal.
Yes, and under the Trump administration, coal has been suffering almost as badly as it was under the Obama administration.
Yeah.
So what should we talk about here? Donald Trump's war on coal? Really?
Well, let's move along here to New Jersey here.
Yeah, and we've got up to July 8th.
We got a picture here coming up too.
We do. And this is from NJ.com,
Yeah,
so you know it's from New Jersey. Who but a person in New Jersey would
I forgot
go
what
for
town
such
that's in.
That is in Seabright.
Seabright, it is.
Yeah.
Definitely Seabright. Well, 25,000 New Jersey homes are in risk of chronic flooding by 2035. And if you go to the article, you can go by town, you insert your zip code,
Yep.
and it'll come up.
Yep.
Now, if there isn't anything in your zip code that's in danger, it ain't going to come up.
Yeah.
So if you put in Brattleboro, I don't think you're going to get any.
Well,
any
if you
answer.
put in, a town like Morristown, which is kind of in the central part of the state, it's going to say you're not in danger.
It's interesting, though, from the article, not all of these towns are directly on the seashore.
Yeah.
Some of them are on rivers.
Yeah. In New Jersey, 25,000 homes worth nearly $10 billion will be at risk of chronic flooding by 2035. These properties could flood 26 times or more annually.
That's every 2 weeks.
That's every 2 weeks, which is, this is sunny day flooding.
Yeah.
We've talked about a lot. According to a recent study by the Union of Concerned Scientists, making New Jersey the state that will be hit the hardest in the contiguous U.S. in terms of property values at risk by 2035. These homes are going to be impossible to sell. I'm telling you, if you've got a home that's on a street like this picture that we're seeing, and you have that happen,
Buy that?
who would want to buy that? I mean, this is going to happen every other week? Are you kidding me? And it's salt water. You can't drive through that stuff and expect your car to survive.
There's a picture in the article,
Yeah,
and it's a house,
yeah,
and there's a sign in front of the house.
Yeah.
House for sale.
Yeah.
Waterfront,
yes.
and it's in a lake. Right in the middle of a lake.
Oh, man. And, these houses were purchased by people who put a lot of money.
Oh, this is their
Waterfront
dream
houses.
house.
Yeah, waterfront houses.
I
You're talking a lot of money.
a waterfront house on the shore.
When I lived in Plymouth, Massachusetts, I looked around at one point for a place to live, and I found an apartment that I could rent for like $500 a month. And it was on Plymouth Bay, and it was right on a beach. I mean, you could walk out the door and be on the beach. The only thing is, the lease would only be in effect from October until March, because during the summer they wanted $3,500 a week.
Yeah, I was just going to say $3,500 a week. Huh?
That's
wow.
right, and
Okay.
and with weekly rentals. And the thing is, these properties were built with the idea that they were of enormous value because of their ocean views, and they were so close to the beach and whatever. And the result of that is that a lot of these houses are really beautiful. And you think of Mar-a-Lago. Mar-a-Lago is not going to be worth 30 years from now what it's worth today. And
If it's even there.
yeah, and anybody who wants to invest in a place like that had better be thinking about that.
Yeah.
And I think if Donald Trump wanted to sell that place, he'd find that only Russian oil barons or somebody like that would be interested in pursuing it. Okay, should we go on?
Yeah. The Royal Solar Power Market shows how Trump's tariffs can disrupt an industry.
This is from the Los Angeles Times. A 30% U.S. tariff on imported solar panels should have caused prices here to jump. But when tariffs were unleashed, as the businesses are learning, things didn't always go as expected. In the U.S., prices have not changed, but worldwide solar prices declined 35%. This is China putting its influence out in the world at the expense of the United States because of the trade war.
Well, that's what's going on. From the article, once you launch a trade war, it's very hard to control the consequences.
Well, it's easy to win a trade war.
And, you know, he throws these tariffs up there, and what happens? China, within 24 hours, retaliated.
Well, and they added $200 billion worth of tariffs this last week.
Yeah, they've added a second round.
I mean, this is honestly, I think what we're looking at is a situation here where we have to say the President of the United States is either crazy or he's committing treason.
Or both.
Or both. But we're not going to be able to survive with this.
Interesting sideline here. Harley Davidson is considering moving some of their production facilities to Europe and Asia.
Yeah.
Right now, as
because
of now,
of Donald Trump's trade
all
war.
of the Harleys are made in the U.S.
Yeah, because of Donald Trump's trade war, some Chinese
Because of
companies and European companies have decided to open plants in the United States. Wonderful.
Yeah.
Because of Donald Trump's trade war, some American companies are shifting some of their production overseas.
Yep.
Well, what do you think this is? Do you think these companies, their bottom line is we have to make money? Like I said earlier in the show, Harley Davidson's bottom line is to make money. Why should Donald Trump expect them to say, oh, the President of the United States says we should do this, so we're going to do it? Even though it loses us millions of dollars a year, and even though it means American employees are going to have to be laid off.
Doesn't make sense.
No,
it really doesn't make sense.
I don't think Donald Trump really understood what a trade war, what the implications of a trade war are.
Let's move on to this.
And
next
you
item.
know the Senate had a vote on that. Did you know that?
No.
They voted on this trade war thing, and they told the President of the United States, and the vote was something like 96-3. They voted that the President of the United States should defer to the Senate before he decides to impose trade wars. And they also voted to support NATO while Donald Trump was off haranguing our NATO allies about how bad they were.
Well, they're not paying enough money, but apparently they are.
That vote from the Senate was something like 87-13 or something. It was, I mean, these are
very lopsided.
very lopsided. And I think the Senate is starting to get completely fed up with this guy.
We got a picture coming up. We've
do.
seen this picture before.
Yeah, or one
There's something
amazingly
very much
like
like
it.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this is a floating solar array in China, and it's big. It's a big array. Okay.
Well, the headline is confusing. So
Yes.
let me explain a little bit.
Okay.
The headline says China X CleanTech, end of Q2 2018.
Yeah.
Now,
What does it mean?
what does it mean? Well, it's a comprehensive article. It's a very
Yes.
long article, a lot of pictures in it.
Yep.
If you like pictures, this is a good one to look up.
Yeah.
But what's going on here, China is, well, this comes from the article, the hottest kid on the block when it comes to clean technical.
Yeah.
Okay. As such, we try to keep an exceptionally close eye on what's going on and share regular reports of the most significant news of the past month or quarter. We call this series China X CleanTech. So that explains what
Part
it
of the
means.
title, yeah.
That explains it.
Okay.
And it's interesting because it's a very comprehensive article.
Yep.
Okay, it covers a lot of, not just solar. We're just talking about solar here, but it covers electric cars, batteries, autonomous cars, environmental. And there's an interesting one here. One of the pictures of the solar, I don't know if it's by accident or not, but it looks like a teddy bear.
No, they did that on purpose.
Did they?
Yeah.
So it does really
They
look
have
like
a whole
teddy
bunch
bear.
of solar arrays in China that you can see from outer space, and they all look like teddy bears.
Well, I thought
like
it was
like
not-
pandas. They look like pandas.
Okay, I can
specifically.
buy pandas.
Yeah. Okay, this is from CleanTechnica. China had 53% of the global new energy capacity in 2017, up from 45% in 2016. But its new solar policy reduces the amount of solar to be installed in China. This is a really weird thing. The United States declares a trade war because of solar panels. What do the Chinese do? They say to their domestic installers, you have to reduce the amount of panels you're installing.
Yeah.
Well, that means that the factories making those panels have got nowhere to sell them? No. it means that the factories making those panels are not going to sell them in China or the United States. They're going to sell them elsewhere in the world. Most forecasters project a downturn in PV production, but IHS Markit predicts that the global solar market will increase by about 11% to 205 gigawatts in 2018 in spite of this Chinese domestic policy. Honestly,
that's a lot of gigawatts.
I think I think IHS Markit is right on the money there. I think the Chinese have got diplomatic and political reasons to try to move their solar sales into Africa, South America, Mexico, the Caribbean,
and where they will continue for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, and you know, every time Donald Trump says, "Oh, we're going to slap tariffs on Canada, we're going to slap tariffs on Mexico," what happens? He's got those countries having one more reason to do business with China.
Yeah.
So he is, by doing that, increasing the power of the Chinese position and decreasing the power of the United States. And this is going to be long-term contracts are going to be signed.
Yeah.
Which means that it's going to take us a long time to recover.
I think you're right.
So, should we escape that bad
Yeah,
news?
let's move into the next. We've got another picture coming
We've
up,
got,
too.
this is Monday, July 9th.
Let me get the picture up, just in case you guys forgot what wind turbines look like.
That picture, I think, is not for the next article, it's for the one after.
You are right.
But that's
Right,
okay,
right.
we can
I'll
look at
put
the
you
wind
back
turbines.
here. We'll look at it again when it comes up.
Yeah,
you
we
are
will.
right. It comes.
Okay. This
comes
is
with
from the
it.
Sydney Morning Herald.
Unprecedented. Solar panel installations soar, on track to triple 2017 record.
Where do you think those panels are coming from? China.
I was just going to say, I bet you they're coming from China.
Australian rooftop solar panel installations soared by almost half in the first 6 months of 2018 as businesses eclipse residential take-up for the first time.
Now, that's an interesting statement.
Yeah. In the January to June half, rooftop solar installations reached 701.9 megawatts, up 48.1% from the same time a year earlier, according to Green Energy Markets, a consultancy.
Well, this came from the article, but it just says exactly what you were saying. Falling unit prices driven by a huge expansion of capacity in China. Oh, this is old. Have been another factor in stoking demand. The long predicted jump in commercial size systems, those of more than 15 kW, is finally happening.
Yeah, and
we've talked about Australia. A lot of it is done by individuals.
Yeah, what's happened is the cost of energy in Australia has burgeoned, and this has been because of policies of the federal government there and of the states, along with other problems. And there's been a lot of infighting among politicians trying to, you know, some of them saying we've got to go with renewables, some of them saying we have to maintain our position on coal. A lot of it was because the coal industry was paying for the political.
Very, very big contribution.
Yeah.
To politics.
And so what we've got in Australia is a combination of things that are on the one hand a mess and on the other hand really kind of amazing. And one of the things that's really kind of amazing is all these people who are putting solar panels on their rooftops. Well, that shouldn't be a surprise because they were paying utility rates that were altogether too high and they were fed up with it. So, okay, can we go on?
Yeah, let's get that picture
Let's
up.
put the picture up. We've got an item here.
This is the one that belongs here.
Yes, this is from an article in the Epoch Times.
China's Sinovel, that's the name of a company, part of country's bid for clean energy, fined for stealing U.S. trade secrets. They wouldn't do a thing like that, would they?
A U.S. judge ordered Chinese wind turbine maker Sinovel Wind Group to pay a $1.5 million fine after the company was convicted of stealing key technology from the Massachusetts-based AMSC. The U.S. Justice Department said Sinovel had already paid AMSC, formerly known as American Superconductor Corp., $32.5 million.
Well, what they did is they recruited an employee of AMSC.
Yep.
to join the Chinese company and secretly copy information from the AMSC's computer system.
Yep.
So they got a lot.
Yeah, we have to move on because we've got 7 articles in about 10 minutes.
We got 10 minutes. Okay, so let's move along.
Our next is from CleanTechnica.
And it is U.S. DOE. More alphabets.
Yeah.
We know that one, though.
Yeah.
Funds project aimed at cutting costs of solar thermal.
Desalinization.
Solar thermal desalination. Yes,
Yeah.
that's correct. That's correct.
Western states are running
That's
into
exactly correct.
critical water issues because of climate change. Desalination plants can address the issue, but they are expensive and use a lot of power. So the US DOE, Department of Energy, is putting $21 million toward 14 projects aimed at developing technology to cut the cost of using solar energy to power thermal desalination. Now, I will suggest there's some discussion of what these technologies are, and people who are interested in that might.
There's quite a few of them.
Yeah.
This is a very comprehensive article.
Yeah. We don't have a lot of time to go into that, so I want to move on to.
Well, the reason for what's going on here is that there's an exceptionally meager snowfall in California. Almost none.
Yeah, and California is kind of turning into a desert.
Yeah.
A lot of it is desert, but you know.
So the coastal cities are investing in desalination because they
Right.
need water.
They need water.
Okay.
Okay, we're up to Tuesday, July 10th, and we have an item from Climate Home.
And we got another picture.
We do.
And just in case you forgot what wind turbines look like,
Yeah,
this is a lot of wind turbines.
yeah.
China and EU can lead on climate action.
Again, when Donald Trump announced the United States would withdraw from the Paris Climate Agreement, he surrendered its influence. The upcoming EU-China summit in Beijing will be yet another moment when world leaders can emphasize the success of decarbonization in their respective economies.
Well, what's going on here, this is from the article, for many years the world saw the partnership between China and U.S. as the preeminent bilateral climate relationship in the world. However, today, China's relationship with the EU is equally or more important.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've given up our position.
We have. We've got an item here from from telegraph.co.uk. This is important.
Okay, I'm going to bring you up there rather than the picture. Britain's nuclear ambition must make way for renewable energy. And we've talked about this one too.
Yep. The UK's first independent infrastructure review poured cold water on plans to invest billions of pounds in a string of new nuclear power stations. It was in favor of cheaper wind and solar power. The National Infrastructure Commission warned ministers against deals for more than one follow-up to Hinkley C.
Now, we've talked about this.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
And that Hinkley C is, they're saying before 2025. And basically, by 2025, wind and solar and a few other technologies that are renewable are going to be so much cheaper that it will make no sense to be
even build it.
Yeah, and yeah, we could do a whole thing on energy storage, and particularly energy storage to back up baseload power plants and how expensive that is. But we'll do that another time.
Well, we got some nice energy storage plants, very local.
Yeah, we do.
One in Northfield, there's another
Yep.
one in Rowe.
Yep. Okay, PV Magazine India is our next victim.
750 megawatts Rewa Power Solar Project starts supplying power. And we talked about this one before, too.
We have indeed. The 750 megawatt Rewa Solar Power Project, one of the world's largest single-site solar power plants, has started operations. Located in the central Indian state of Madhya Pradesh, it is the first solar power project in the country to supply power to an interstate open access customer. It will send power to the Delhi Metro Rail.
That's interesting.
Isn't it?
The
Okay.
environmental impact of this 1,600-acre project, I forgot how many square miles that is.
Well, that would be about, it's
big.
2.5.
2.5 square miles.
Yeah.
Okay. Is equivalent to planting 26 million trees. Okay, would lead to avoiding 15 million tons of carbon dioxide.
It's not the equivalent of 26 million trees planted out in the middle of the desert, though, because they'd all die.
And the railroad's going to be, they're going to be buying a lot of it. They're going to purchase 24% of the project's
Yeah,
electricity.
they're planning on running their trains entirely on solar power whenever they can, which means
Makes sense.
most days.
Makes sense.
Wednesday, July 17th, we
That's
have
the last one, isn't
a
it?
different picture of a wind farm.
There we go. That's a turbine, guys.
A bunch of them, actually. But this one is from Climate Action Program.
Clean energy investment reaches $138 billion
In 2018.
2018.
Investment in clean technologies is closely tracking last year and has already hit $138.2 billion. Analysis by Bloomberg New Energy Finance shows this is 1% lower than for the first half of 2017, though the direction of investment is changing. Both wind power and smart technologies, including batteries, have seen increased investment. Investment in solar power went down slightly.
Yep, it did.
But the amount of solar capacity that was put online grew quite a lot because of the decreasing price. Yeah.
Yep. And wind power was up 33%. So
Yep.
that's significant.
And I want to point out that according to something that we saw a couple of weeks ago, the amount of money that's going into renewable technology is about 1/6 of what we need, which would mean close to $1 trillion a year in order to stop climate change. $1 trillion a year will stop climate change, but if we don't do that, it's going to cost us $10 trillion a year by the end of the century.
Wow.
Just in coastal flooding problems.
Oh boy.
Okay, our
We got
next,
two more here. We got
a couple of
we'll
minutes.
get them in.
Our next item is from Utility Dive.
EVs could drive a 38% rise in U.S. electricity demand.
EVs could drive a 38% rise in electricity
I just
demand
said
in this
that.
country. Yes, you did. According to the DOE's National Renewable Energy Laboratory, the NREL study indicates that rising electricity demand could lead to sustained absolute growth of 80,000 gigawatt hours per year over the next 30 years. This could add a growth of 1.6% per year for that period to utility companies. Utility companies that traditionally are not growth companies could grow at 1.6% per year.
That doesn't sound like much, but it's significant.
Well, when you consider that they don't
Every
grow.
year
Yeah, every
it
year.
is.
Count on it. It's going to be there.
Well, a quick takeaway here. Utilities have struggled with flat demand
Yeah,
for years,
yeah.
but analysts predict steady growth across the next 3 decades.
Yep. And what
largely driven by the adoption of electric vehicles.
all they have to do is jump on the wagon.
Yep.
you know, I mean,
it's got to be an electric wagon, though.
It's got to be an electric wagon, that's right. Okay, our next item is the last for the day and the week, and that is from Euractiv.
German coal trounced by renewables for the first time.
I wouldn't have expected this a year ago. According to data released by the German Association of Energy and Water Industries, wind, solar, hydropower, and biogas met 36.3% of Germany's electric needs between January and June of 2018, while coal provided just 35.1%. This is the first time coal has fallen behind renewable energy over such a long time in Germany.
Well, there's an argument going on in Germany
Yeah.
about how best to phase out coal,
Yep.
because they've been using coal forever.
Yeah.
Brown coal, hard coal, intermediate coal.
They build power plants on the site of the coal
Right
mine,
on the mine,
because they're mining brown coal and they have to use so much of it that it would cost a fortune just to transport
just to
it.
transport it. We don't even use brown coal in this country.
Not that,
It's just one step above peat.
yeah, and peat is
They
basically,
use peat. They use peat in Ireland.
they use peat in Ireland, but you know, anyway. So, you know, Donald Trump got down on Germany in this NATO thing because he said the Germans were buying natural gas from the Russians and had become captive to them because
Yeah,
they'd been
yeah, I was
closing their
laughing
coal
when I
and
heard that.
nuclear. And it's like he's trying to promote his own policies, and the Germans know better. You know, There may
Well,
be people in the
they're
United
not
States.
stupid.
There may be people in the United States who think that Donald Trump is right about this, but if they are, they're operating with their eyes closed.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're up to the end of our.
Yeah, we finished. We finished it.
We actually got to the end of the show.
Yeah,
Amazing.
We got 13 seconds left.
Have a good week, and
Take it
come
easy,
back
guys.
next time.